Hi guys, welcome to the AI architecture playlist. So guys, in this playlist I'll be telling you how to design architecture and how to really lead an AI project. So usually this series would be very beneficial to both managers since they would understand what technology is used and how to eventually build a product. And guys, also I'll be talking about the fact that this series is very helpful for developers whenever we are building a project. Usually managers and everyone don't have the correct amount of technical understanding, so you are the one who usually suggests stuff. So guys, today we'll be talking about choice of backend. So guys, exactly what happens in web dev is that on a simple node we usually follow something known as the client server architecture. So we have a client that communicates with your server. So your client is going to send what requests to the server, and what your server is going to do, it's going to respond. So usually guys, this happens. Okay, this is like very basic of web dev. Now in any product which you're trying to build, right, any website, any app, okay, any platform, it would eventually require these two things as the main pillars. Okay, now we are talking about AI apps. So guys, mostly you will find that in backend, whenever you are like doing some stuff related to AI, it is very common that you would find people using Python. Okay guys, so from the choice of programming language, you can definitely opt for Python. I'll be giving a note on other programming language as well, but for the time being just stick to Python since that is the programming language in which you will find the maximum modules and a lot of other stuff as well that will help you do your AI development in a quick and efficient way. For instance, let's say if you want to, let's say, deploy a ML model, right? So you might use sklearn. Let's say you want to train a neural network and host it in the backend. Maybe you would be using PyTorch or TensorFlow for it, right? Most of the times nowadays, a lot of people, most of the applications leverage LLMs. So you might be, let's say, using LangChain, okay, Llama Index, or perhaps their own API, right? OpenAI has its own API, Anthropic has its own API, Gemini has its own API, or perhaps a framework. So guys, all these things are usually available in Python. So most of the times you'll be finding that it's the Python that is mostly your choice of programming language. Now guys, in Python, what you will find out that mostly people have three framework. One is Flask, another is Django, and the third one and the most buzz these days is about fast API. And guys, why we are talking a lot about fast API lately? Because guys, this helps you build things in async stuff. So I have made a dedicated video on async as well, which you can see. But in nutshell, what async framework is that, let's say you are running two tasks. So in programming, you can run it sequentially. That means after one task, the another one would get start or get completed basically in a sequence. Or in async, that means parallelly you can have concurrent operations running. So what happens is guys, these days most of the AI products are powered by LLMs, okay? And usually guys, right now when it comes to smooth deployment, you have a lot of chatbots doing the round, right? So in a chatbot kind of a setting, you have the best framework to use is an async framework, since case you will have multiple people pinging here, right? You will have multiple requests coming in. So that's why a lot of people use fast API, but that doesn't mean that every time you need to use fast API. As I said, basically for generative AI workloads where you're calling in a lot of LLMs and APIs. So yeah, it becomes a simpler choice back then, and it is nowadays a lot in buzz because of this thing only. So guys, you need to just understand the difference between Flask, Django, and Fast API so that we could be like talking in terms of establishing a proper framework. Just a note guys, usually I want to spend some time to make you understand what usually happens in backend. Okay, I think a lot of data scientists would not know it. So guys, what happens is that whenever a user comes, okay, to a website, usually guys the first step is login, right? So usually you log in with your Google or Microsoft account or GitHub account, right? Anything you log in with. So what you, this is basically the auth which they provide, right? So what happens post this is that these things, right? Let's say Google or any framework or any uh, auth provider you are using, what they are going to do is they are going to be sending an auth code. Okay, now this code you would be calling in their API and getting the user info, and once you get the user info guides, then usually you create something known as sessions, right? You send the cookies to the browser, right? And so basically my thing is that backend development, it's not always just about AI stuff, right? There are a lot of other things as well. Authorization is there, database management is there, right? Because this guy's playlist is about AI architecture. So once you are building an end-to-end AI product, you need to take care of a lot of things, right? How to implement authorization, which is the correct database that you need to choose, right? When you want to go for a NoSQL database or a SQL database. And guys, I'll be telling you very honestly that I've spoken to a lot of people, never have any like strict like what people call it as inventors dilemma, right? So never go by this theory that, let's say now I have a playlist of Flask on my YouTube channel. Okay, so if you haven't seen that, you can see that I have a dedicated playlist of Flask in multiple chatbots. So whenever a project comes, so by default my natural state would be to use Flask since I've worked on it and I'm more comfortable in it. But what if Fast API is a better framework for the project? What if Django is a better framework for a project? So guys, never fall for these things. Always, like, the best solutions which are like built are often, you will find out that it's a mix, it's an hybrid solution. It's not that everything is just on one end only. So big projects often have hybrid solutions. So that's why you have big teams, right? In tech, in most of the tech companies, you have big teams managing a lot of stuff. So that's the part that happens. So now the main thing for you as an AI developer, manager, architect is to understand the difference between these three frameworks. So let's go on and talk about these three frameworks now. So guys, see, the main aspect that you want to understand is that all three would help you develop backend. Right now it's up to you which one you want to choose. So you have Flask, Django, and Fast API. So guys, what happens is that essentially Flask is a micro framework, Django is a full stack development, and Fast API is an API first framework. So what usually happens is, guys, understand, if you want to build, let's say, a e-commerce based system or a system where there is a lot of like components which are inter combined, right? In terms of, let's say, an e-commerce website would have vendor management, cart management, also multiple other sort of management. So for any of those requirements, right, where you have to create a very full stack based framework, right? Let's say you want to create an Amazon clone, Netflix clone, or for that matter any big websites, right? Flipkart. For those kind of things you need to use Django, because the main thing is, guys, you need to develop a full stack app, right? It's not, you won't call Amazon an AI app, right? You would call Amazon as a full stack app, since there'd be so much happening in the back end which we can't even imagine. So guys, you need to just remember this one thing, that whenever you want to build something that's very big and which is not exactly AI related stuff, then you need to go by Django, because guys, Django gives you main like these admin panel, ORM, and also, guys, these type of features help developer have everything at one platform only. So if you want to create something that's very big and that's not exactly a AI product, that's more of a web dev product, e-commerce website, because guys, e-commerce doesn't always mean like Amazon, any sort of management where you have multiple things, just like a big full stack app. So for large scale applications you could just use Django only. Let's say you want to create a Netflix clone, or you would know your product better, but just try to understand. Then comes guys fast API. So fast API is best used guys when you want to just create APIs and you want the front end to just communicate with them. So let's say you want to build an application that is powered by LLM. So guys, obviously you'll be using OpenAI, Anthropic, Gemini. So they won't give you the raw model, right? They would be giving you an API. So you just need to develop the API, maybe code in some business logic, and just like give your front end developer an API documentation. He or she can just call this directly. So guys, I personally specifically for AI apps feel that fast API is the best framework. Django is a little too complicated. As I said, we are not making an e-commerce website or a food management website or like a big app that has like I don't know how many operations of crude and a lot of stuff. So for those kind of applications you would use Django. Otherwise guys, if you are using generative AI based LLM calling, which is very important, like which you would be using tool calling and all those kind of things, so guys just go by fast API, because guys it works on the async support, right? As I said that this has async support, so it really works well when once you have a lot of concurrent requests. Okay, it doesn't mean Flask is bad. So let's say you want to create a simple ML based application or any simple application which would be like having a lot of internal usage, and let's say it won't be called by a lot of people, so you could use Flask. Okay, Flask itself also says that don't like it's not recommended for production based workloads, but that's okay. Let's say you want to create a chatbot that would be used internally by 30 people, 30 to 50 people, then guys it's okay, you can go by Flask. Let's say you want to create a chatbot that would be used by 3000 to 5000 people, then maybe you would think about performance, right? Then you might want to choose fast API because it uses the async support. So guys, all these things are very important and you need to take a call either as a manager or as a developer, that what is the framework that you need to use. See guys, there will be people telling you go for always Django, go for always Flask, go for always fast API. They haven't actually themselves worked in any industry based project, and neither they have seen architectures of modern companies. So I was talking to someone, he worked at Netflix, and he was telling me that he was a manager, and he told me that it was a little difficult to manage 70 plus services which were intercommunicating with them. Some were written in fast API, some were written in Django, some were written in Flask, some were something else. So he said that it was a little difficult for me also to manage such things. So guys, this is also a case that people go for a hybrid solution. Okay, in the following lecture on in the next future lecture of this series, I will be talking about microservices and monolithic services as well when you are choosing the architecture. But guys, always take a call based on your requirement. Don't go by any preconceived notion that okay, I know Flask, so I'll use Flask. But guys, as I said, fast API is better for generative AI apps because you exactly want to like make a lot of APIs and do it, so async would make much more sense. Okay, I want to create my own e-commerce website that is hardly generative AI, but that's more crude based operation and a lot of business specific knowledge, and it's going to be big, right? There's a big platform that we have to build, then maybe you would go for Django. So that's how you take a call. Let's say you just want to build an internal app for that would just have an ML a regression model in the backend, always go for Flask. Okay guys, so just try to think that what is the requirement first. So just based on requirement you need to choose the right framework. It's not that any framework is good or bad, it's just based on the requirement that you need to take a call. So if you see this thing best suited for custom lightweight solutions, as I said guys, let's say you just want a simple ML based website, go for Flask. Why waste so much time? It's simple to use. Let's say you want a chatbot that would be used internally by 30 to 50 people, okay, it's fine, go for Flask. Best suited for traditional large scale applications, no sir, I want to build a Netflix clone, I want to build an Amazon clone, I want to build something that's very big, that's not AI, but that's AI 20% and 80% are other things, go for Django. No sir, I want to build a chatbot, I want to build a system where I'll be calling a lot of LLMs, okay, go for fast API, it has async support. So guys, just take a call on the scalability purposes, don't try to fall into investors or inventors dilemma. Okay, always take calls based on the requirement of the project. Now guys, a short note on choice of programming language as well. So guys, see, as I said that mostly people use Python because like Python has a lot of support for backend, so specifically for data science and AI based workload, so people often use Python because it has a lot of modules as well, right? Let's say you want to encrypt a token, decrypt a token, so everything like a module is given, so it works. But let's say your team wants to build backend and like framework like Node.js. So guys, all these type of things are also used. It's not that Node.js is not used. A lot of traditional apps still like use Node.js in its backend and React at its front end. So this is very normal, guys. Okay, like obviously just try to see that. And the main thing is that most of the AI, since I'm talking in terms of AI based workloads, you would be using Python only, as I said, obvious reasons, right? Modules are there, packages are there. But let's say your team wants to really use JS as well. So guys, it's okay. There is no issue. You can code your backend in Node.js as well. You can write all the APIs in that language as well. There is no fixed rule that Python works better or JS works bad. It's just about how you implement, what is the scale, what feature you are using. So there are a lot of considerations there as well. Let's say you want to use Java, so you can use it, guys, but mostly you would find Python as the dominant source. So guys, let's say you are coding backend for embedded systems, right? Let's say gaming or edge devices. So guys, obviously like Python is also like uses C++, right? Let's say use TensorFlow and all those things. So like they also use C++. So it's a wrapper. Rather than using a wrapper, you would use the thing itself, because in an edge device you have compute constraints and speed constraints. So you might go for C++ based programming language. And guys, you have Golang and Rust as well. So these are very specific cases, but it's not that every backend like all these things are just made by creators. Mostly guys, you would find a simple framework that is like you'd be using Python or JavaScript. These two are most commonly used, and 70 to 80% you will find Python being used for obvious reason, guys. It's not that Python is good, but naturally it comes out of a choice, because guys, modules are written, packages are written, bundles are written, so that you could just get started very quickly. Even Node.js is good because there are a lot of developers who have JS based capabilities. Now let's say they might not, even a lot of these apps have features in JS as well, so that also works. So it really depends on your team's expertise and the type of product you want to build. So just stay along. I'll be covering like multiple lectures in this playlist. And guys, in my YouTube channel you can just go and see there's a lot of playlist that's been already done, and a lot of content would come as well. But this is one of the most important playlists that I'm creating, because guys, see, I'll be very honest with you. In future there would be a lot of times when you need to take architectural calls. Okay, that let's say someone is saying that which programming language should be used in backend, should we go for Django or Flask, right? So this is the type of expertise organizations would expect from you in future. So guys, please stay along. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and free feel to DM me directly on LinkedIn or Instagram. I'm always there to help you. Thank you and have a great day.